being a teen is rough. You have to juggle your social life, school, and prepare for your future, all while trying to figure out how the world works. Don't get me wrong, being an adult is also rough, but at that point, you kind of have a better understanding of life. In the anime Kokoro Connect, it captures the essence of being a teenager, all while throwing some supernatural elements. Hey there, how's it going? I'm Haunted Toast, and today, we're talking about Kokoro Connect. Kokoro Connect is a light novel that was written by Saranatsu Anda. In 2012, an anime adaptation was released. It weirdly had 13 episodes that released on TV, rather than the typical 12, and 4 bonus episodes that came with the DVD. It was produced by Silverlink Studios, who also made Baka and Tess and My Next Life as a Villainess. The first time I saw this, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But looking back at it now, I feel like it has some themes and issues that went over my head. Years later, let's see if I can understand these themes now as we review Kokoro Connect. The story follows 5 high school students: Yagashi Taichi, Inaba Himiko, Nagase Yori, Kiriyama Yui, and Aoki Yoshifumi. Each of these characters couldn't decide what club to join, so they all decided to join the Student Culture Society, thus creating a ragtag group of misfits that normally wouldn't hang out with each other. A mysterious being called Heartseed wreaks havoc on the club group and creates random supernatural phenomena that occur whenever, wherever. The anime has 4 different arcs, and each arc deals with a different supernatural phenomena. The first arc deals with body swapping, in which at a random point in time, 2 or more members will switch bodies. Obviously, this leads to hilarious misunderstandings and questions about the opposite gender. But at the same time, it allows us to get a good look at the characters. The protagonist of the show is Taichi, so we see everything from his point of view. But because people keep switching bodies, we get a good look into the lives of the other club members. This body switching arc also does a really good job at setting the tone of the show. Throughout this arc, characters have difficulty trusting one another. There is a fear that people will do something inappropriate or illegal in their bodies, which makes perfect sense because a lot of these members just met each other, and now they're forced to trust each other. The theme of identity is used to develop Yori's character. We learn in this arc that she had some parental issues. Her mother kept remarrying, and there's always a different father figure in her life. In order to make everyone happy, she learns to change her personality in order to satisfy the people in her life. Because of Heartseed, she begins to wonder who Nagase Yori really is. Does she herself define who Nagase Yori is? Or is she defined by what others think of her? This body switching arc is a great introduction to the show, as it forces characters to interact with one another on a personal level, while still introducing the characters. It also does a really good job in setting up the groundwork for characters later on in the story. The next phenomenon the club faces is having their desires unleashed. This means at a random point in time, they'll be compelled to do whatever they want at that moment. This could be anything from shouting during a test to kicking someone in the face. This whole arc forces them to deal with, well, themselves. Each character is forced to face parts of themselves that they normally don't acknowledge. Yui has to face the violent side of herself, while Taichi struggles to figure out his true intentions of being the hero character. Is he doing it because he cares about his friends? Or is he doing it just to be known as the hero?
Hug all the glory? I'm going to save Kiriyama!
What do you mean, save her? You're just a selfish freak who doesn't want to see Yui look sad. Get over yourself!
This phenomenon not only forces them to face themselves, but also exposes their weaker side to them, which ultimately leads them to shut down and avoid everyone. Inaba used to always be in control, and is known as the cool character type. But now with her desires running amok, everyone now can see her fear, her desire to be accepted, and also the fact that a lot of the times, she doesn't know what to do. This arc forces these characters to break out of their character traits and become something better. In the end, each character, with the help of others, learns to accept themselves, weakness and all, and become stronger for it. This arc is very story and character driven. Each episode progresses the main story at a fast pace, and doesn't give any time for any casual slice of life moments. It mostly just had a story it wanted to tell, and wanted to set its characters up for the next arc. In the next arc, we get an age regression arc. It's exactly as it sounds. Between 12 to 5, the students will turn a random age. With a set time, this allows them to hide somewhere and wait for the effects to wear off. This arc forces the characters to face their past selves, In the past two arcs, it's clear to see that these characters are maturing. They learn more about themselves through each phenomenon, and what they learn turns into actual character development. You can see a clear transition between the cool and always in control Inaba and the Inaba who acts upon her emotions. With their past selves coming into play, they begin to question whether these changes were for the better, or if they've lost sight of their goals. A lot of these characters in the beginning were a lot more carefree, which makes sense because they're all kids. Now as teenagers, they're plagued with thoughts of how their lives could have been different, whether if it's keeping up with sports, staying in contact with old friends, or just changing something simple in the past. These thoughts put more strain into them, until eventually, some characters break. Another fear they have is whether the past will repeat. Aoki is in love with Yui. When he turns younger, he's reminded of another girl that he loved, but eventually forgot. Now he fears that his feelings he has for Yui is the same thing. I personally enjoy this arc, as it plays with the characters now that we know who they are. We get to see the writers play with their backstories and create these scenarios that really do capture what it's like being a teen in high school, and the inner stresses that everyone goes through. It also blended some slice of life moments into the story arc, which slowed down the pace and allowed the audience to really digest the story. Eventually, they all get past this, and they all become stronger for it. The only problem I have with this arc is that they don't really explain this scene. They don't even go back to the shrine. The final arc in the show is a mind-reading arc. In this one, everyone's emotions and thoughts are linked with one another. At random times, they'll hear thoughts of another member, which personally to me is probably the worst one. I can't even imagine what would happen if people knew what I was thinking. This arc mainly focuses on Yori. Her constant changing to please everyone around her has finally caught up with her. With the mind-reading phenomenon, her clubmates can finally see the real Yori, which is someone she doesn't even know. What she does know about herself is that she's sad and a judgmental person. Yori fears that because of her doom and gloom thoughts, it would bring the club morale down, so she decides to leave. And it's up to the club members to bring her back, all while trying to convince the teacher who runs the club to stay, instead of managing the jazz club. What's amazing about this arc is how they approach Iori's problem. When Iori is sad and shows her true self, all the other members take time to talk to her and try to get her back to the old Iori. Everyone's not aware that this sad Iori is also a part of Iori. They just want things to go back to normal for them. But in order to go back to that normal, Iori would be forced to put on the mask again and pretend that everything is okay, which, in that moment, it wasn't. This arc may have been about Iori, but it's the other members who learn about the stress and pressures they put on her when they expect her to play a certain role. This is a complex theme, and the way they went about it is very interesting. And that's the anime Kokoro Connect. Kokoro Connect is a slice of life anime that portrays what it's like being a teen. Compared to other slice of life shows, it has a more serious tone. These 5 teens struggle with identity and face heavy trials that we all face in life. At first look, they all may seem like the typical two-dimensional character with one personality type. But as the show goes on, they begin to mature. They begin to learn more about the world and themselves. The theme of identity is very strong in this series, as characters are forced to face themselves, their past, and their traumas. With this theme, combined with the dark tones, and whatever the hell Hardseed is, it sets a dark and serious tone in the anime. There are a few casual slice-of-life moments to lighten the mood of the series, but in general, the anime takes a more somber tone. The phenomenons are there to make the story interesting and to keep the plot going. In the beginning of each arc, the phenomenon is always played out like something fun or wacky. As the arc reaches its ending, the story uses it to focus the interactions with the other characters. This really speeds up their character development because it traps them into situations where they're forced to grow. And let's be real. If we let them figure out their identity without these supernatural things happening, they wouldn't be able to figure it out until a long, long time. Like, they'd be really incredibly lucky to figure out who they were by the time they graduated high school. And that's my review of Kokoro Connect. If you're looking for a serious slice of life, then this is the one for you. There was a lot of other things I could have talked about, like the animation, or what is Hardseed, or a lot of other things, even the controversies. But, I wanted to talk about the characters and how they developed and how I saw how they developed, because, it can be different for other people. You could watch it and you have something different. Someone else could watch it and